and how we can get rid of a safety issue. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But so basically, back in the day, when we were kids, or when I was a kid, we didn't have drilled wells and bored wells. We had mostly these old dug wells. The dug wells are actually fed by aquifers, which are finger lakes of water that run underneath the ground. The intent was when they dug the wells, they would dig down until they hit one of those aquifers, and then the path of least resistance would be if you have a hole and you actually hit part of a water vein that runs underneath the ground, the path of least resistance, the water's going to want to run into your hole rather than keep on going down the vein because your hole's bigger than what the vein is. So it was very easy for these guys to start digging, and then they could get down anywhere from 15 to 25 to 35 feet deep and hit this vein of water and have a nice water supply for the houses. So whoever decided that they wanted to do that as a profession, I would never know, because it's a very dangerous job. Probably these days no insurance company would insure them to do it. But once they got down to the bottom, they had to figure out a way to keep the earth back so that the hole didn't cave in. So they would dig as far down as they could, and then they would brick the inside of it to try to hold the earth back, which is, most dug wells usually have brick lined casing. The diameter of the wells can be anywhere. We've seen them as small as 24 inches, as big as, I had one that was actually 72 inches up by Rio a few years back. So it just depends on, who's digging it and how big they want it. And a lot of times the diameter of the well was determined by how much water holding capacity did they want. If they were a large farm operation, they wanted the well to hold a lot of water so that when they were watering the hogs and the cattle and things like that, they had a good supply of water and didn't run out of water. So those were usually bigger diameter wells. So as far as the sealing goes, we like them, if they're not being used, to be sealed for two reasons. Number one is obviously a safety issue. Wells generally that are old dug wells used to have old concrete tops on them, and over time those concrete tops split, they crack, and then they kind of start crumbling, and so they become a safety issue for anybody running around on top of the ground. We try to eliminate these so that little kids don't fall down in them. I know that you've seen newscasts before where kids have fallen down in old wells that they didn't know were there, and the top gave way. The other issue, which is really on our end of it, is we're trying to protect the water that feeds this well, so we want to protect the aquifer down below. So we don't want anything up above to get down into that well and contaminate that aquifer, because that aquifer may be feeding someone a mile down the road, 3 miles down the road, 4 miles over across the field. They might all be on the same vein of water. So anything that happens up here on top of the ground that can seep into the ground, we don't want to go into this well and contaminate that aquifer. So that's the other reason why we like to have them sealed. During the sealing process, the Illinois State Water Well Code is the one that actually dictates how these have to be sealed. The goal is to seal off the aquifer so that nothing can get down into it. So what we generally recommend, and what the well code requires in an old dug well, is that at least 20 feet of ag lime be put into the well. And when you add the ag lime to the well, it actually sets up with the water, and it'll set up just like concrete. So it'll make a natural seal and seal off that water down below. We want to disinfect the water before we seal it off. So Justin he's already taken the top off the well. Because this well is so close to the house, when you start putting ag lime in there, it's going to make the water that's down in the well start to rise up, and eventually it'll overflow. So he's actually done his due diligence and put a pump down there, and has been pumping it down over the hill as fast as it's replenishing itself and coming back in. He's already taken the top off the well. I don't know if he's going to use his tractor, but we're going to have to knock the bricks down about 3 feet. So the casing, which is the brick that holds the earth back, they want you to knock the casing down about 3 feet down, just to get it out of the way, so that if anybody's digging there later, they don't run into something and say, "Uh-oh, there's a well here." because it'll be a completely sealed well, so it won't be a well anymore. Then we want to disinfect the water that's in the well, so they require that you add 2 gallons of bleach down into the bottom of the well to disinfect any water that might be remaining left in there. And then he can start adding his ag lime, and we want to get at least 20 feet of ag lime in there. Sometimes we have old dug wells that are not as deep. This one, he said, is about 30 feet deep. We'll check it just before he does it. But if it's only 15 feet deep, then we're going to fill it from bottom to top with ag lime to get that proper plug in there. So, but technically he can just put 20 feet in there, and then the rest of it from the 10-foot mark up to the top, he can just fill with soil or rock or whatever he wants. When I first started working for the health department 30 years ago, they required 2 to 3 feet of pea gravel be put in the bottom of the old dug wells first, so that then they can add the ag lime on top of that, and it kind of acts as a filter for the water. They don't require that anymore. It doesn't always have to be put in there anymore. So, does anybody have any questions about the well? That's good. And maybe I did a good job explaining it.
Good job.
Anytime that you seal a well in Knox County, whether it's a drilled well, a bored well, or an old dug well, you would have to apply through our office, which is the county health department. We do not charge anything for a well sealing permit. It's free, but you do have to fill out the application, and we do have to touch base with you on how you intend to seal the well, and make sure that we're all on the same page of how it's going to be sealed properly. You have to give 48 hours notice before you seal it, so that we can schedule to have somebody out here to watch the well sealing to make sure that it was all done up to code. So that's kind of the process. If you come into our office, or if you call our office and you say that you have an old dug well that you want to seal, we'll talk a little bit about it, and then we generally refer them over to the Soil and Conservation Service, because they have a grant program that can help the cost of sealing it. So I'll turn it over to Kara.
Good morning. So glad you could join us. We ordered perfect weather for today. My name is Kara Downen. I'm the resource conservationist at Knox County Soil and Water Conservation District. We're located in the USDA building next to Harley-Davidson. So as Sarah mentioned, we work with the Illinois Department of Ag very closely, and they created a cost share program through the Partners for Conservation grant program that's funded through the state of Illinois. And locally, we administer that. Soil and Water Conservation Districts administer that on a county level around the state. So that's us for Knox County. If you have a well and you're just inside another county, I can refer you to my counterparts there. But if the well is physically in Knox County, we can help you. That includes the Galva Cemetery, we have found out. They had 3 wells, and the Galva Cemetery is physically in Knox County, although Galva, we know, is not the city of Galva. So we worked with them to get that done. So the cost share program, as Sarah mentioned, I actually put together the health department's application and our cost share application together in a packet with a template cover letter, and I brought some here today. So if anyone comes in, they can start either at the health department or at the Soil and Water Conservation District, and we will get you to the same end result. If you come in with your forms filled in to us, I will scan them over to Sarah. I won't have you drive across town, because we are on polar opposite ends of Galesburg. So what we have to do is, when we receive the application for cost share, we do have to take it to the Conservation District Board meeting. They meet the 3rd Wednesday of every month, so as long as you get it to us prior to the board meeting starting, we can get that approved, and you can have it sealed the very next day. The cost share, it's 75% of your cost, up to a maximum of $400 per well, and that includes drilled wells, dug wells, anything of that nature, and there's no limit. So if you have several, Justin can attest, there's no limit. We've done, I think he said maybe 9 or 10 was his count, on several properties. We do have to have the application in the owner's name. So this property, for example, Justin is the owner and he rents the home out. So the application is in Justin's name. And then the cost share check would go to Justin. That is considered taxable income. So If it's over $600 in a year, we have to send a W-9 form for that following tax season. So, but other than that, we coordinate very well with the health department, back and forth. Good relationship in Knox County. I can't speak for other counties, but they've got great staff, and we communicate very well. And we kind of check on things. If we've got someone scheduled and I haven't heard from someone, I'll say, hey, Sarah, have you heard from them? Before I give the landowner a call, because we don't want to make it cumbersome on the landowner if we can iron things out between us. But yeah, overall, that's the program. And like I said, as long as we have cost share funds, there's no limit on how many one landowner can do. So I don't know if you have any questions for me on the cost share side of it, but Sarah's the enforcer, and I'm more of the financial side of it. And when it's sealed, she has forms that she completes the day of the sealing, and then she gets a copy to me so that I can see that it was certified, done properly. She was here, because like she had said, if the health department's not here, they can't certify that it's properly sealed, and then we aren't able to spend the state cost share funds on that project. So we don't want that to happen. We want to make sure everything's going in the proper order, and
we have had homeowners try to jump the gun and go ahead and seal it because they might have a weekend off before they're actually approved by their board, and then unfortunately they won't pay. So.
Yeah, we have to have everything kind of line up because our records also get audited. So we want to make sure we're spending money wisely for sure. So I don't know if you had any questions for me, or if Justin wanted to elaborate more on his experience.
I think it's a great program and a great opportunity to, it's not a tremendous amount of money to do it, but that cost share makes it super affordable, and everyone's been real good to work with, answer questions, and I just think they're a tremendous liability. I mean, you take Christy, for example. I mean, she's got kids, so you got tops on these wells, but things happen, with kids, and we don't want that. Another thing is that when we drilled this well, I'm not exactly sure what the distance is. Do you remember, Sarah, what the rule is when you drill a new well?
It's supposed to be 50 feet from.
So I think here we're over 50, maybe not a tremendous amount, but if this was closer, then you've got a window of time there that says, hey, you can drill this new well.
So within 30 days, you have to seal the old one.
Right. So we had more than our 30 days, and then when the crop's out, we're going to do another one that's in the field. But I'll sleep better knowing that this is mitigated correctly.
Well, it looks like you did the prep work beforehand, so.
Just a little side on that. I pulled this out with the backhoe.
Look how thick that is.
I tried to do it carefully, so temporarily what I'll do is I'll set that back even though there'll be nothing under the lid, until we do something more elaborate on the patio. Another situation here is where this is a dug well. So this one, for example, is 30 foot. This is a cistern, and so obviously the rainwater off the roof of the house would go through the gutter. It would go into that pipe there on the patio, and this serves as a reservoir. It's 8 foot diameter and 8 foot deep. But that is not a cost shareable item, because even though it's kind of like a well, that would not be attached to the aquifer that she talked about. So it's not really, it's a safety hazard, but it's not a groundwater threat hazard. So I don't get any cost share, but that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and seal it like it's a well. I'm going to go ahead and put bleach in the water. I'm going to fill it with ag lime, have a nice plug there, and so that way I have no worries. If one was to do a patio or even a home addition there, you'd have no concerns being over that. So.
And the cisterns aren't regulated as far as a well sealing to go through all the proper channels. The cisterns can be sealed by the homeowner on their own with no rules or regulations attached. We generally recommend that they pump the water out and then they just crack it and cave it in, so that it's not there anymore once they're ready to get rid of it. But I grew up on a cistern as a kid, and all the water in the house came from the cistern except for the kitchen faucet. All the laundry water, all the bath water, everything came through the cistern, which was rainwater. That's what we used to do all of our showers and everything. But anything that we used to cook with or drink came from the kitchen faucet, which was city water.
Basically, it's an in-ground rain barrel.
It is, basically. So, and slowly but surely, we're getting back to rain barrels.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
Sarah, do you want me to just do a quick show of how this was measured?
yeah. So we generally run a tape measure to figure out the depth of the well. We need to know the depth and the diameter in order to know how much ag lime to order. So
Haven't felt it yet. I know I'm too deep there. It was just shy of 30.
you'll feel the pull.
See if you agree with that.
Right there.
So that is 29.
Yep.
29.4, what I was calling 30.
Well, 30's fine.
There'll always be plumbing in there. Per the rules, you have to remove the plumbing. So there, by that LP tank, see with that black line, it has a little strainer screen on it.
Yeah,
Can you
removing
unplug
the
that?
plumbing can be kind of dangerous sometimes, depending on who's doing the well. And sometimes I get homeowners that, how am I supposed to get the plumbing out of there? Crawl down in there? Oh, no. Don't crawl down in there.
That is a good point. So you wouldn't want to crawl down there, but there's nothing wrong with kind of a two-person job. You take a ladder, and you can put a ladder into there. So sometimes you can reach over the edge, but if it's anything more than a foot or two, you're probably not going to want to do that. So in this case, I just got a helper and put the ladder in there, and so even though the ladder's in there, I'm only crawling down 3 foot at the most.
And then sometimes, we have like a backhoe with a bucket on it, and they can put a chain on the bucket and then lower kind of a hook on the end of the chain down there and hook underneath that and then just yank that pipe out of there. What you're trying to do is get everything out of the inside of the well that could cause a bridge in the ag line so that it doesn't make a void there, and it'll seal nicely.
Here's the concoction I made to do this. It's just a regular, like a basement sump pump. I put fittings on it for a garden hose. Drilled some holes for an inlet, and I like to do that because inadvertently you might have a little bit of rock or a little bit of dirt there at the bottom, and that helps you minimize how much of that gets drawn in the pump. And in this situation, I tape it so that the float is in the engaged position. And so, since sometimes water keeps coming back in, what I'll do is I'll actually take the hoe and I'll cut a little channel to try to minimize the mess, so I don't run water to the house, just from experience.
Justin, when you go down the well, and you said you have someone here to help, you put a safety rope on too?
I had this rope here, and I know we had a rope because I had a second. I took the other end of the rope and had someone hold, so that way when I was attaching to the plumbing didn't get away from me.
Yeah.
I didn't drop it further down in.
I think it's a good idea to have a rope around your waist too. I got the official report on whether or not you had one.
Yeah, who was my rope holder?
I did that for Dad many times there where you live.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll get my paperwork. I did the application, but it has everything as far as procedures to follow.
Just so it follows up, you can slip it,
And I brought
especially on
copies
your
of those
arms,
procedures, and I just
come
put
up
them on
over
the
your
table.
shoulders on the neck, but, if you slip, you loosen it, catch it right here.
So I knew that it was 30 foot deep, 3 foot diameter. So I'm doing old pi r squared. I knew that I had 141 cubic feet. And then Kara has actually a spreadsheet program where you just put in the information. And that told us that I was going to need 12 ton of ag lime. So you know how much weight translates to volume. So I got enough ag lime to do this well, to do my cistern, to do another well, and I went ahead and shot it high because I knew I could just spread the rest on the field.
It's always a good idea.
But see, so when I'm doing cost share, obviously they're not paying me to put it on the field or in the cistern, so I'll just, you know, bill out 12 ton, which cost of that's not tremendous. As Sarah said, we don't have to do pea gravel anymore, but you can do clean fill on the top. If this was in the yard anymore, I go ahead and run the lime up to 3 foot and then put dirt at the very top. In this case, I'll go ahead and run the ag lime up to the top because I want a good hard surface for, you know, maybe repouring a patio at some point. So, this was the cover letter she talked about. There's the application, and then here is the instructions. So, schedule a date with the health department. We did that with Sarah. She must be present at that time. Remove all plumbing from the well. That's the pieces we have behind us. Disinfect the well by pouring a minimum of 2 gallons of bleach. So,
You ready for it? I can help you do that. You want to keep moving?
and actually, truth be told, bleach is not sold by the gallon anymore. So, is there? Yeah. Well, actually, these are slightly less than a gallon, which is silly.
That's fine.
But I went ahead and brought some extra because even though I don't have to, I'm going to disinfect that too.
Sure.
I'm going to do this so you don't get bleach on your clothes.
That's fine. I
So,
appreciate that. But it wouldn't be the first time. So
yeah.
You're around bleach in the restaurants too. So. You can see where I cut off the plumbing and I capped it inside the house as well.
Justin, are those things found under the wellhead or were those out in?
Those are just in the dirt. That when I was digging this out. Now, Sarah, when we read the instructions, do I put a little bit of, for pulling the casing in, okay, we do the 20 foot of ag lime and then we put in the 3 foot. So,
The bricks, you mean?
3 foot worth of the top brick.
Yeah, the reason that they want you to do that is so that the bricks you don't have bricks all down on the bottom of the well, and then it causes the bridge where you put the ag lime in. Sometimes we can put the ag lime in, you can put like 10 feet of ag lime in and then do your bricks and then put your other 10 feet in. We wouldn't have a problem with that either.
We got so much real estate here,
It's up to you.
I'll put in plenty.
That's fine.
So obviously if I want to put 20 foot in, I'm going to go to on 10 foot from the top. John's always real good at reminding me to bring the caution tape and the sticks to... Alright, this will take a little time because I'm just going to take the hoe and do several. Once I do that, then I'm actually going to cut a small trench just so that remaining water. So, yep.